What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fresh Podcast, where we bring everything fresh in entertainment. And it's that time again where we are here talking about Star Wars. So who better to have on the show than the guy with the Star Wars tattoo, Randy? How you doing?
Howdy, howdy. Doing great.
All right. And as always, Seth is with us. How you doing, Seth?
Hello.
All right. And we are back talking about Andor, one of the latest series to Disney Plus that is set in the Star Wars universe. If you want to see our opinions about the first three episodes, which is kind of like the first little like introduction arc to the series, we've already recorded that. But now that the series has finished and we've established all our characters and the first season is done, these are kind of finalized thoughts about it. So before getting too much into it, let's talk general thoughts. Randy, how do you like Andor?
Really like Andor a lot. It's a different direction for Star Wars, which I think was needed. Because I think some people, especially with the Star Wars movies that Disney made, people were not particularly pleased. Some people were, some people weren't. A lot of people are like, meh. But I think Andor is something that is a different direction for Star Wars and a different direction, I think, for especially under Disney Star Wars. The way I've started to describe it is kind of like spy action with a bit of political drama in it as well.
Yeah.
It's definitely for an older audience. I wouldn't show it probably to under 12, so teen and up probably is fine. But yeah, it's a great show. Go watch it.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. It's one of those things where it's like if you took Star Wars out of this and then replaced all the lasers with guns and all like the hyperdrive talk with just regular stuff, it'd still work. It would still be a good show, just even if it did not have the Star Wars like brand attached to it. It doesn't rely on like your nostalgia for it. There's really only one character that kind of feels like, oh, this is a cameo from, and she doesn't even feel like this. She feels like her own character, but there's only one character that's like, oh, I recognize them from the original trilogy, and even then, like it's so different from everything else. Other than like Rogue One is the only thing it feels like, but that's for good reason. And I think that's a really good breath of fresh air for Star Wars. We've had a lot of like, it's a, kind of learning more toward either kids or more adult kids, like kind of teens. But this is the first thing in a while for Star Wars where it's like, no, this is Star Wars, but in like mature audience. Like we were talking about killing and torture and enslavement and government and politics and a lot of big ideas, which we'll definitely get into. But I like the breath of fresh air. Seth, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I liked it also. I like the direction. I can't say I'm absolutely in love head over heels for this, but I recognize that this is probably the best made Star Wars content that they put out on Disney Plus. It's certainly easily the best written one. And it's more just like a matter of preference, I think, when it comes down to it for me. I really like it as a first season, and I think it really helps to know that there are future seasons coming to this. Because, by the end of this, not everything has been fully resolved or paid off yet. You can kind of tell that there's still things that are, like, lingering in the background that's going to be paid off in probably, like, later seasons. But I liked it. I really like some of the new characters. Mostly Luthen has been a very big standout, or developing characters that really haven't had that much screen time before, like Mon Mothma, and it's, like Andor as well as, he's pretty good. He's kind of like overshadowed by, even though this is his show, he's kind of overshadowed by a lot of the other characters around him. But I think Diego Luna does a very good job with his what he's given. I think he does a pretty solid job.
Yeah.
So I overall, this is a show that's like, you're right. I think it tackles more mature themes than Star Wars is typically known for. I think it it has very good pacing. It's not really rushing to go anywhere. It's letting things kind of fill out and breathe naturally, you know. I think a lot of the best way I could describe it is to probably compare it to Rogue One, where there is a buildup and it's very explosive at the end. This show does kind of have that, but more or less, a lot of the show just kind of just smolders a lot with a lot of like emotions. It really lets things like sort of get to like a tipping point, and then it really blows up in its face. And it will go a long time before it decides to let that happen.
Yeah.
Before the payoff happens. So I appreciate that. It wasn't rushing to get anywhere.
It definitely shows to the like the writers and like the people who are behind like this show the fact that there are like multiple episodes where you know there isn't a blaster fire, there isn't gunshots, and there isn't like some high like explosive things. It's just characters talking, and the fact that like I'm still super like I was intrigued each and every week to come back and learn what's happening, even though like on the surface they're moving very slow. There's not a lot happening, especially like when we get kind of in that middle season. But before I get into that, let's do this a bit out of order. Just because you brought up characters, I did want to ask, and you've already named a few, but some of the kind of standout characters on this. I do agree with you a little bit, the fact that Andor, yeah, he was kind of overshadowed in his own show. Not to the extent of, like, Boba Fett and Book of Boba Fett, but it where, like, literally someone else became the main, and we didn't see him. But I think it's more, it fits this show better, because I feel like almost Andor isn't the best title for this. I don't know what else you would call it, but it does kind of feel like, no, this is a show about like the start of like this revolution, of this rebellion, and he's just like one piece of it. And right now, not even that important of a piece. Probably will be later, but he's just another storyline going on. There are other stories happening around him that sometimes don't even have anything to do with him. Like especially a lot of what Luthen's doing. But he's just off somewhere else, which is a bit weird, you know, saying that, but it kind of works for this. You know, there's multiple stories going on and multiple character arcs happening, but at no point do I ever get confused or do I wish we were staying on one more than the other. They all kind of feel interesting. Like even Mon Mothma's like political dealings and figuring out like how do I move money behind the scenes. I was interested.
I loved that.
Like
I loved that.
That was like surprisingly like really intense and interesting, and it's people at dinner tables like not, you know, just trying to be secretive.
Yeah, dinner parties and stuff.
Yeah, so that's
and it's tense and it's good. I like it.
Yeah. She was definitely like one of the standouts for me is Mon Mothma. Like I do want to like throw in and say that like whenever I say overshadowed, of course I don't mean that like, oh, like Andor is like easily blown out the water by it. I think he does a great job as like a leading character. It's just that like it really does speak to like the
really great characters.
Yeah, he's one of like multiple. Like he doesn't feel like he's the center point of the galaxy. But I talked for a little bit.
And I do.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
And I do want to add also like, and this is like more not a criticism. I do want to say that like not every character is an absolute banger in this show. Like there's a lot of characters and not all of them are gonna like hit that well. But I think for the most part they do a pretty good job. And it's just like I think what makes the characters work is like it's not just the characters themselves being interesting, but you get a slew of a lot of different perspectives. You get perspectives of just the regular sort of people kind of getting caught up in the crossfire and what they decide to do whenever the Empire starts cracking down on like their people, their home. You get like sort of like the rebels and pockets of resistances perspective, and you actually get a really deep inside look into like the Empire as well, like kind of the politics going on there. We can get more into that later, but like I said, not every character is a banger, but I like them for the most part.
Yeah. Randy, what about you? Who were kind of the standouts for you during this series?
All right.
I know you got the IMDb up, so you better get all these names right.
Andy Serkis as Kino. We'll kind of talk more about it when we get to the arc that he's a major part of. But see, that arc ends up finishing up around episode 10, and it is kind of all of that building and building on him, and it's a 3-episode arc, and you care for this character so much in just 3 episodes. It's great.
Yeah.
So I think he did a fantastic job. As Seth mentioned earlier, Luthen still in Skarsgård. Fantastic, kind of seeing his back and forth and playing this rebellion, this fight against the Empire, kind of like chess, having literal groups of men, just like it's one of the pawns, and he treats himself as the king. Like, if other people get captured or die, it's fine as long as I don't, because I'm the king of this rebellion.
If I get checkmated,
instrument.
the game's over.
Yeah, pretty much. Let's see, Dedra. She was the main protagonist, I guess, that we follow through the ISB storyline.
Yeah.
And I really like what they've done with her through this entire season. She starts out kind of like, oh, people don't want to listen to me or whatever, even though like she has the right hunch. She's saying the right thing. It's a bit stretched and a little far-fetched initially, but we know it's right. So it does something with us as the viewer of just you're watching her and you're kind of like you're rooting for her to do well and succeed because you want her to be like, yeah, I succeeded, and like she's moving up the ladder in the ISB, but that
like,
gets
she's
later.
She's still in the ISB,
like,
right?
You're like, ooh, this is still the ISB. Ooh, I don't want her to do this to the good guys.
You're like, yeah, rise up to power. Ooh, wait, the wrong.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but like.
Rise up to power. Ooh, wait, the
really
wrong
cool
power.
they do
Oh
that.
gosh.
Yeah, and I think she did great.
Yeah, one of my favorite like scenes that kind of like speak to that, where I was like, oh, I am kind of rooting for an ISB character. Weirdly enough, was kind of the part where she got to take over the sector after she like, without permission, going behind him, looking at like there was like some logs or something about a sector. He brings it up in the meeting to sort of out her, and she turns it against him. Where he's just like, well, he's covering his ass because he knows that like there's all these shortcomings and he won't share with anyone. So she said it's like he's not actually has me in a corner. I have him in a corner. I forced him basically to have to like out himself. And it's like I sort of like that like little political maneuvering on her, and it's like, ooh, I like this character just because she's like she didn't take this dude's shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
there's a line that
I'm almost gonna just run through this. I'm gonna run through it quickly. We have Vel and Cinta. Yay, some queer representation. Although it'll be interesting to see what they do with Cinta, because Vel is you have like Andor near the end anyway. He's there. He's trying to help and save people and whatnot. And you literally have Cinta hunting basically an Imperial. So it's kind of hard to see that like you have like a good, like they're a good person, they're like, or they're one of the good guys, like they're for the rebellion, but what they're doing is kind of not traditionally seen as like, yeah, this is good. And then same with Cyril at the end, also in the last episode, he does something heroic, but he's a bad guy, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So
there's a very interesting.
It's interesting how they play with these characters and like their traditionals. Like, well, this is a good guy character. This is a bad guy character. Bad guy does bad thing. Good person does good thing. Like, it's cool how they're twisting that around. Yeah. Another great character is a character named Nimic. He helps inspire Cassian throughout the series at the beginning. Can't forget Forrest Whitaker as Saul Guerrero, so he
Yeah.
shows up again, and he's doing a stellar job.
He just kind of shows up in
And,
Star Wars things every once in a while. Does a great job. He just
We only
shows
had a
up.
couple seconds with him. Clem Andor, also fantastic. And then Marva Andor, who I'm sure we'll talk about in a whole segment, but she's also great.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
done.
Now that Randy finished playing the name game, I want to quickly talk about is it? I'm saying it. Cyril.
Cyril.
Cereal.
Cyril.
Okay. So like cereal. I
Like
wonder-
cereal.
Is that a okay?
Yeah, Cyril.
This
it is
is
spelled
this is my
S-Y-R-I-L.
yeah. I see how it's spelled, but like this is my fan theory. I'm pretty sure that that character is actually named off of like because of cereal because he looks like he's just eating Fruit Loops during like the entire show with him and his mom. So that's my theory. Is he actually is called cereal, but they just had to spell it weird and do it that. So that's my
Just Star Wars.
yes. So that's
I
my
know there's
theory.
another character named Tim, but with 2 M's.
Yeah, but I mean, Tim gets. We've already talked
Tim
about Tim.
Coelho,
He
that's
gets
what it
shot
is.
in the first 3 episodes. Tim's entire
Yeah.
job was to fuck up Andor's life and then die. So he doesn't get a
Yeah.
fancy name. If he had a fancier name that was harder to pronounce, then he would live. But yeah, cereal is really interesting to me.
Cyril.
I'm gonna
I
keep
think
calling him
it's just
cereal.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just Cyril.
I like cereal.
Anyway.
But no, Cyril's interesting to me. He's a very he's a good antagonist. He's a good character to hate, if that makes sense. Like I'm watching him, and I'm just like, even in the first 3 episodes, we've talked about him before, but you're just like, stop being such a stick up your butt. He's
What a weenie.
yeah, exactly. And he's such an incel little like prick that just kind of ruins everything that he touches. And and then like his mom has to like get him a new job. Like Randy's laughing because I used that word.
Yeah.
And you just gotta like you're watching him like I just want someone to punch him really like I just want someone to break his nose. And he's just a real creep and just a real like slime ball through the show, and you're glad that he's there because it's good to have characters in the ISB. It's like okay, she kind of is she's not good, but like I'm kind of rooting for her to like get up, but we also still have this like just person that is just ruining everything, like just trying to make life so difficult. So I like that he's around. I'm gonna love the day he gets shot though. So yeah, he was a big standout, and Randy's already named off the rest of the cast. So we'll get into the arc so we can kind of get into a bit more specifics of them. Starting with right after the first 3 episodes is kind of what we've called like essentially the heist arc, where Cassian is recruited by Luther and they're on this.
Luthen.
Gosh, I want these characters to have regular people's names. Luthen. They're on that planet and they're just either like I think it's in credits, but I don't remember what I think they're like the Imperial's like actual payments, like how they were gonna like pay their soldiers or something. I don't remember that.
Yeah, Imperial payroll. I
Yeah,
think.
something like that. And that probably I don't know. It might be the most like never mind. I just remembered the finale. I was about to say the most bloody arc, but it's not. But you're introduced to a lot of characters like in this little. I mean, not a lot, but a lot of people like in this short like gang that's like doing this heist, and this is where the show kind of like. Again, spoilers for the show. This is where the show really separates itself. It is not scared to kill off these characters. It is not scared to just shoot someone point blank, and when someone gets shot, they stay dead. It's not like Kenobi where she gets stabbed in the stomach and she can kind of just keep walking it off. No, if they're hit in the chest, they're dead. So it's a very interesting arc. It's a very emotional arc, especially for one of Randy's favorite characters, Mimic. Am I saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I got one. So I really liked it. It sets the tone very well for the rest of the show, and it's this big catalyst where what comes after of like this was the moment for the rest of the show that's like this started what people consider the revolution. So, Seth, what are your kind of thoughts on this? I guess technically second arc of the show, the heist.
I liked it. I wouldn't praise it too much. Like, oh, this show's not afraid to kill characters, because it's kind of like, I mean, these are characters that are introduced for one arc and then they get offed. And like, to be honest, there was like one standout with me in this cast, and that was the Imperial. Well, actually two. It was the Imperial officer that was sort of like helping get them in, and his backstory is he fell in love with one of the natives, but she got killed, and so he's kind of like resents the Empire after that. So that guy gets him in. And then the other guy who used to be a former stormtrooper, and he's the one that teaches them how to march properly, so that they can blend in with the Empire when they get in there.
Well, improperly, because Cassian has to help him out.
Yeah, that's true. He does definitely miss a couple of things, but for the most part, we do know his backstory is he was a former stormtrooper.
Yeah.
Those were the two characters I really actually liked. Actually in that like group, and they both pretty much get immediately killed off when shit hits the fan. So like, but like we didn't really stay with them that long. About 3 or 4 episodes, I suppose. So I guess we did stay with them for a bit, but still. But I like the heist arc. I think especially like the sequence where the eye, as they refer to it, opens up, where it's like this meteor shower that apparently happens every like so many years. It's like a really
it looks
cool
beautiful. You're like, wow, this is a TV show. It's great. It looks good.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool sequence, and it's also just like, I do like that you were able to clearly see how the heist was being put together. By it, you could definitely tell like the writers that came up with this really neat sort of like, for lack of a better word, like cosmic event. That's like, okay, let's have like this really interesting cosmic event. How do we build like a heist around it and make it believable? And it's just like, well, it's meteors in the sky. People are watching it. It only happens every other year. And it's like dangerous, but it's also their one way to kind of escape. You know, it's like, okay, that's really cool. That's a really smart way of like making something that feels very Star Wars, but also making it like a believable kind of like heist plan. I did appreciate that kind of level of detail. I didn't care for the kid in his manifesto. I don't know. He was a little too doughy-eyed for me.
I think he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And like, he was the one that like, I actually believe in the cause. Everyone else was like, I believe in this paycheck. Well, not everyone, but like.
No, hold on. There was only one guy that was really like that. And granted, most of the others were like, their kind of deal was like, it was some sort of payback against the Empire.
Yeah.
And he believed in the cause. Here's the thing. Like, listen, I get what his deal is supposed to be. It still didn't make me like him anymore, though. So I really didn't care. I will say, his death was pretty awful. Like, I was just like, dang, getting crushed by essentially gold bars slamming into his chest.
Because they didn't lock it down properly.
Yeah.
Like, his was the most, like, that could have been avoided if people didn't make mistakes due to stress.
It was a legitimate work accident. There was not OSHA standards on that freighter.
Star Wars has never followed OSHA.
I remember that scene too. That would look like that hurt. Like when I saw it just slam into him, like, oh, that would look painful. And I didn't think that would be the death of the character either.
I felt like it would have been, because the thing about the show is that like they're not Force users, they're not superhuman, they're all essentially
just dudes, just people.
Yeah, they don't have anything special about them, so that does make it more vulnerable and does make the action sequences a little better. It's one of the reasons I liked Rogue One a lot, is that it, like carrying on from Rogue One, is that these are people who aren't invincible. They can get hurt. They can definitely get killed. and then obviously there's Chirrut and Rogue One, and he has some connection to the Force, but even that only goes so far. So I like the high sequence, I guess is when I'm putting it down. I think it was really well thought out. And I only really liked like a handful of characters, and I hadn't quite warmed up to Vel. I like Vel. I don't really like her partner that much. She's just kind of
supposed to later on.
Yeah.
I kind of stated earlier about episode 12.
Yeah.
I don't think we're supposed to absolutely love Senta that
Yeah.
much.
I don't think, to be honest, I don't think we're really supposed to love a lot of characters in this, because they're
That's fair.
like I think the show is setting up that like a lot of the rebels are kind of awful people, but the idea is that like you have to be awful. I don't think I like Luthen just because of his dedication is so deep into this cause. But like I get Senta's deal as well. It's like, yeah, she's so dedicated to this cause that she's willing to basically, she makes it pretty clear. It's like, I will sacrifice this relationship to make this cause happen.
Yeah.
They're not good people. They're not likable people. But likable people don't win wars, is I think what they're getting at.
Yeah. I agree. I don't know. That's kind of what makes them interesting to me. And I think that's what you're saying too, but that's kind of why I like Cynthia, Cynthia's the Pokemon trainer. Cinta. I'm going to keep doing this the entire podcast.
And I'll keep correcting you.
Yeah, thanks. But that's why I like her, because I'm like, one character's like, oh, like relationships, it's like, Vel, shut the fuck up, all right? We're trying to take down the most powerful person in the world, in the galaxy right now. Like, get your head on straight. Get your head out of your ass. And I don't know, I find that dynamic interesting of someone who's like, I'm trying to still be a person, and someone who's just, I've just lost faith in everything, and I'm just okay with whatever. You're around because I like having you around, but it's not a priority.
Yeah. And like, I guess, I don't know, like, I guess that's two extremes of like both sides of what we're talking about characters is like, you have this kid who's very idealistic and believes that like, there'll be, like if we fight hard enough, good things can happen, and he gets off. And then you have Cinta, who is like absolutely just straight cold-blooded and stuff like that. I don't dislike either character. I just don't care for them. And they're both extremes of like, they're both like on two very different extreme sides of like the rebellion.
Yeah.
So,
Randy, what are your thoughts of the heist and the characters who we are introduced for a short time?
As I kind of stated earlier, I do like Nemik. I like that he's this idealistic character, thinking like, if we, how does the line go? I think it's a line actually in the sequel trilogy. It's like, we're gonna be the spark that ignites hope.
The flame
to
of
take
the
down
rebellion.
the First Order.
I think
the flame that's gonna take down the First Order. Whatever, something like that. It's blah blah blah. Spark, flame, kill First Order.
He's a poet.
Whatever.
He's a poet. He's definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like kind of, I feel like they're hinting at that to then build up to later to say, because in Rogue One there's a line, rebellions are built on hope, and so I think having this idealistic character that then helps inspire Cassian to fully be like, I'm on board with this. So just like throughout each arc, he gets more kind of inspired by, or he gets, well, that's the course of this entire season, is he gets changed to finally at the end of the season to be like, okay, I'm a rebel. I want to fight the Empire. Because basically you have the first arc, where Luthen kind of says, all right,
You're a rebel now, Cassian.
If you'll, you have a lot of money if you'll come do this job for me. Second arc, all right, we're doing the job, and there's that idealistic kid, but even Cassian's like, whatever, kid, you're full of crap. That's like, it's not even we should take what we're given and just be happy, because that's even something Nivik kind of shoots back at Cassian, saying like, oh, so we should just keep our head down, take what we're given and be happy. And like, even Cassian's just like, do I look happy
Yeah.
about it? But it's kind of just like, what is one
that.
person going to do about it, you know?
Yeah. I
And the next arc is kind of Cassian indirectly inspiring, or maybe not indirectly, like directly.
very directly.
Inspiring Andy Serkis's character Kino. And then the last bit is about him being like, "All right, I'm gonna do this." So
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of that kind of stems from that. Also, it helps at the beginning of the last episode. You actually hear Nimic's manifesto that he's writing throughout this little heist arc. But that's enough about Nimic.
No,
Anyway.
no, it's not actually, because I want to agree with you. I also really like Nimic. I think his character is like really important for Cassian. I think there is and Seth brought it up too. There's a good dynamic of, yeah, we're all anti-empire, but like, to what level are we? Some people are like, I want revenge. Some people are, as I said earlier, I want a paycheck, and even that's how Cassian is at the start. But I do think
I said that's even how Cassian is at the end. Of
Yeah.
at least the prison arc, or not the prison arc, the heist arc.
Yeah, but that's how he is at the start of the heist arc of I just want a paycheck, and to not be on my old planet. But I think it's really important that you have this character that's like, no, the cause, like he's a poet. He's very like idealistic, and he's like, he very much believes in this work. But when it actually comes down to like, yeah, we gotta go and like storm the base and do all this, he is terrified. He's shaking. He's so nervous, and he even.
He's a boy.
Yeah, he's a boy. He's a kid, and like you feel for him because he's like, he's such a dreamer. He's such like a big-eyed, like wide-eyed, like he wants to be an optimist. He wants like there actually to be good in the world, and he's just in the part of Star Wars where that's not, hope isn't enough. Like, he's in a regular Star Wars show, this character wouldn't be killed off. This character would like be some like political figure, or like grow to be. I don't think they would kill a character like.
No, they would. There's a lot of like that's why I saw like from a mile away this guy was going to get killed off, because it's like anytime you throw in like a big idealistic character into this situation, they are definitely one of the people that go. But usually their deaths is kind of like the instigating thing to get like whoever is the cynic to start believing in it. But it's a common trope. These characters always get killed off.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know. I think for some reason he just worked for me. I think he's a very important part of that first arc. And I think he also does a good contrast with Randy, help me with the other guy that's there.
Skeen.
Yeah, Skeen, who is there just like, ultimately, especially when we find out towards the end, he is there just for the paycheck, which shows you
he's
like
for the paycheck, and he's gonna screw everyone else over.
Yeah, he'll shoot he's like, Cassian, you want to shoot
spoiler
everyone?
at the end of this arc.
And I think that's just kind of.
I don't watch like an Andor like full review season. It's just like, oh dang, I got spoiled.
Oh no!
How are you doing?
I mean, how far into this are we?
We're 30 minutes in, so yeah, they're fine.
Okay.
I even said spoilers ahead at one point. But it's also like, I also like that dynamic of this person just died believing in this cause he believed in, and he died like a pretty, all intents and purposes, meaningless death. Like he wasn't gunned down. He didn't die to he got killed because of an accident. It was a workplace accident, more or less, because they just didn't lock down the cargo. And like this kid's on his deathbed, and even then he's still like, hey, let's just take the money and leave. Like, screw this. I don't know. And when I kind of agree with Cass, just shoot him immediately. Maybe like hold him at gunpoint and like tell the others, so you don't just look like a murderer. But I like that. I like that character dynamic, because again, it shows that what we've been talking about for so long is there are people in this rebellion that are technically, yes, on the quote-unquote good side, but they are not good people. It's like the big difference between a lot of these like different rebels. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, I need to speak up on this because we're talking about Skins. Is that his name? Skins? Skunk,
yeah.
Dumbass, whatever name you want to call him.
Skeen.
Skeen.
when you have a name like Skeen, how do you not expect him to betray you?
I didn't. Okay,
but,
to be
like,
fair, I didn't know his name. None of us know these characters' names.
No, that's true. I don't remember half these names.
I would. The only reason I
but-
know Mimic is because we kept saying his name.
Yeah, like you guys kept saying, it's like I just remember him as the dweeb that got crushed.
Yeah.
But like, Skeen had my favorite scene, and my favorite scene is his death scene because I love this consistent thing that they kept from the beginning of Rogue One, and they are really using it as a character thing for Andor. Where as soon as he like sees, it's like, no, it's just like you're gonna be a problem. I'm taking you out immediately.
Yeah.
Like I really like that. Mostly because like I was like I don't want to hear about like hey we're not so different, we're both just in it for the money. I just like Andor is just like I'm gonna blast you and we're done. No monologues, none of this bullshit. You're just dead. Like it's the thing I wanted to do in AC3 to every character that told me they're doing this for the greater good. It's just like cut them off mid monologue. Just cut them down. I don't want to hear it.
I do. I never noticed that until you just brought it up. But yes, every time, even in Rogue One, when he realizes someone's gonna be a problem, he will just shoot them. And I didn't pick that up until you just pointed that out. Like, oh yeah, I kind of love that about him. He's like, hold on a sec. This will cause me problems later. Let me just fix this real quick. Like, don't give him a chance. Don't let him react.
Yeah, like he understands. It's like I am not going to win in a straight up fair fight. I don't have time to take like the moral high ground. It's just like if I see a problem, I need to take care of it now. And he doesn't waste any time, and I love that about Andor.
I never noticed that, but that just became one of my favorite things about that character. That he will the second he sees a problem, he's pulling out the 9. Oh, okay, I like that.
We could use more characters like that.
It would get shows done a lot sooner. If like imagine the sequels, the second like Kylo's like, all right, Rey, join me, and she just shoots him like in the mouth. I was like, oh, that was quick.
That'd be pretty great.
Yeah. Luke walks into the room with like Darth Vader and Sidious, and he's like, "Hey, you forgot to check for a blaster." He just shoots the Emperor. I love it. All right. So after the heist is kind of this like. The prison break is technically the next like arc, but that's not exactly what like he doesn't immediately go to prison because of this.
Yeah.
What happens?
We deal with the fallout.
Yeah.
We deal with the fallout of the heist.
To Space Florida.
Yeah,
go to
he goes to
Niemos.
Space Florida. Just
The music there is great.
bang
Not
some
gonna lie.
space chicks. So yeah, and I think that's kind of an important part to talk about is this heist was more than just getting money. Ultimately, they could have thrown the money into space, and it still that wasn't the goal. And Luther talks about it really well. It's like now they're gonna squeeze everyone, and it's gonna suck for everyone. And we see that.
Yeah, hold on. He has one of my favorite lines here. Whenever Mon Mothma is horrified about what happens, and she says like, "People are gonna suffer," and Luthen just says like, "Yeah, that's the plan." It's like, oh shit. Because like I think the idea that Luthen is getting at is people aren't gonna fight back against the Empire if they're comfortable.
Yeah.
They have to feel the squeeze if they're gonna fight back. So he's like, yeah, people need to suffer. And it's like, oh shit.
Yeah, no, and he's right. Rebellions don't start if you don't squeeze people. If people are just left in comfort, then you'll be fine. Then nothing would have happened. If they never, which is the ultimate irony, if they didn't react at all to this big heist, and we're just like, whatever, like we'll look for them, but we're not gonna like harm the people. We're not gonna raise the taxes. We're not gonna start imprisoning everyone for jaywalking. The rebel would never have happened. The rebellion nothing would have changed. It would have been the same. But because like they did such a big step, and because they took such drastic measures, that's what started this whole, rebellion. That's what started everyone coming back and, down with the Empire, fighting. That's what got the people inspired. And it's a very like dark idea, but I love that. that it shows like no, the rebellion are not all good guys, and it does not really have. It has good goals, but the way they're getting there is not morally right, and that's super interesting to me. Randy, before we get to the prison, what are your kind of thoughts of like the fallout of of this heist?
I think you guys summarized it pretty good about having Luthen talk about, yeah, people aren't going to rise up if they're not feeling that squeeze, feeling the oppression of the Empire. And this is something that's kind of displayed also in this episode, is you have kind of Luthen as, like, Luthen and Mon Mothma, you know, both working towards the same goal, but going about it very different ways. Luthen kind of admitting, and I think he admits this in a later episode, saying, like, I use the tools of my enemies to defeat them, and I know I'm going to be damned for doing so. And then you have Mon Mothma, who is very much trying to be more idealistic, trying to help through the Senate, help, you know, lend money and stuff like that, and kind of go a little bit behind the back of the Empire and whatnot, like, oh, they're just charity funds and whatnot, trying to, you know, be good about it. And it's really cool, again, to see that dynamic of characters that, as Cinta actually says, I think in the heist arc, is I'm a mirror, and like you have a lot of characters that are kind of mirrors of each other. So I find that interesting. That was, I think, the best part of that episode for me.
No, definitely. But after that, you know, you can't stay in Space 4 for too long without getting arrested. In such a dumb... It's almost comical, the fact that this stormtrooper accidentally arrests someone that was such a big part of the inciting, like, revolution, but he arrests him because you look suspicious. I'm throwing you in prison. And
I'm just a tourist.
I'm just a tourist. He's just a tourist. He's just a tourist. He's nothing else. And there was something really funny about that. I'm just like, he did nothing wrong to get arrested. But if this trooper actually knew who Andor was, he'd probably shoot him on sight. And it's really funny. I'm just like, what'd you do? And it's like, I'm a tourist, and then he thought I looked suspicious. 7 years in prison. He's just like, what? And he goes to prison, in this essentially labor camp, and he finds everyone that, again, kind of reinstating, if they just left the system how it was and just let people get out of the prison when their sentences were up, we would have been fine. There would never have been this, big inciting incident, never been this rebellious cause. But no, they had to take it another step and just do this prison loop, which leads to, spoilers, just so I can say the ending of a Prison Break. If it wasn't obvious, but I just kept calling this the Prison Break arc. And we've sung his praises so many times, but just as like a final path, Andy Serkis is amazing in this. Like, he has such a quick character arc from the floor manager to like pretty much a rebel leader that like incites this cause, and he was such like a cool and inspiring character that we've known for like 3 episodes. And then at the final thing where they're all jumping over ship, going into the water, and he's just like, I don't know how to swim. And that's just kind of where everyone realized, like, oh shoot, this guy doesn't get to come with us to the end of this season. And we don't see him drown, so there's a possibility he's alive. But
I think that part is purposely left like kind of ambiguous, because it's kind of been like maybe one of the prisoners like helped him out or something like that. Like I think it's purposely left ambiguous, and I'm cool with that.
I'm okay with it. I'd be okay if he like came back, or what I think would be really interesting is instead of like he got up, like season 2 starts with a shot of him still on the base, just kind of like either huddled or just looking at the water, and just like, what do I do now? Like he's stuck, and they just kind of take him, or just take him and put him on a different way, which would just be like an ultimate irony for this character. um, so I don't know, but he's super interesting in that. But Seth, what else? What else is interesting about the Prison Break arc? Or you can keep talking about Andy Serkis if you wanted.
I think you covered it. I think
Yeah.
his like character arc in general is pretty good. I do think like I generally I have liked the instead of talking specifically about the Prison Break, I think I just kind of want to catch up about like where Andor is at this point.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't think Andor doesn't want to be like a rebel or anything like that. I think it's just that he has a lot of anger at the Empire because you flash back into his backstory and you kind of get why. I mean, granted, it was the Republic at the time, but the Republic pretty much strip mined and kind of, environmentally destroyed his planet. And like and then you look into his past and killed his adoptive father and oppressed him all his life. So to me, Andor has always hated the Empire, but it didn't have a direction. So he took it out in different ways of like kind of selfish ways of like, well, I'm just going to steal this to make a quick buck or something like that. But like from the heist and then now into the Prison Break where he gets to see people die for these causes and people face this horrible oppression. I think that's where you start to see like the fight get into Andor finally, where it's just like, you have the anger, you have the skills, you need a place to focus it at, and you need to focus it on the Empire. It's like goes all the way back to like the first 3 episodes where Luthen is talking with Andor, and he says like, aren't you tired of just picking at the Empire, just poking at them, or do you want to do some real damage? And I think that's what Andor's learning is like, no, I want to do some real damage to these people. So I like that the prison arc is basically that final push for him. It's to me, that's how I read it, is like that's what pushes him, because he finally sees what the Empire does for sure. Like, well, he's always seen it, but he's finally like on the receiving end of it fully in the worst way possible.
Yeah. No, it's finally like a moment where it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, are you just rebellious, or do you actually want change to happen? And this kind of, at this point in the show, he's starting to realize like, I have the ability to actually change the world around me instead of just dealing with it and being sad. So I definitely agree with that. Randy, what about your thoughts with kind of where the show is at now during like this prison arc?
All right. So this is episodes 8, 9, 10. Prison is Narkina 5, and I think it's done really. I mean, we've already said it. It's done well. Who would have guessed? Andor's a good show.
Yeah.
And I think you guys already covered the prison pretty decently, so I'm going to cover some other aspects that happen throughout this arc that aren't in the prison itself. So I know at least in episode 8, you have Mon Mothma get to meet Tay Kolma, who's like an old friend of hers that's also in the Senate and whatnot. And this like is one of my favorite scenes in the entire series, is they're basically having this big dinner party, and she meets up with him and is pretty much dropping bombshell after bombshell on him of just like, do you know what I know? You know what I know, and you don't like the Empire, and neither do I. And like, I know who did the Kinsey heist, or I don't know if Kinsey, something like that. Anyway, I know who did this heist, and I know how we can continue to fight this, and like, I'm funneling money to this cause and whatnot. And all while she's doing this, like, you can see him start to like, oh my God, what is happening? But she at the same time was like, now smile, pretend like, walk with me. We're having a bit of a laugh about old childhood memories. And just
Mm-hmm.
as she's dropping bombshells, she's like, "Oh no, smile,
Yeah.
turn your head to whatever." And it's just, I think it's so well done, of her kind of recruiting someone into this cause, or at least getting some help
Yeah.
from it. And it's something that's throughout the show. It's lies on lies and whatnot.
Mhm.
Like, all the characters have lies that they're
Yeah.
telling pretty much at one point or another. And I don't know, it's done really well.
You know what's another thing that like was like going through my mind watching this is, at no point did you, at least for me, at no point did I ever get a full grasp of the guy that she's recruiting, if this guy is like really like on her side or not, because she is taking a risk on telling him all this, and during the entire time watching this, I'm like, is it going to be revealed like he's with the Empire? Is he going to betray her or something like that? And we don't really get an answer to that, at least in this season. And I think that is interesting. That's like, and that just kind of speaks to that scene of that acting and like kind of what show this is. Of, it's not super obvious if this dude's going to betray her or not, and he doesn't, at least for now, as far as we know. But
I think he will.
Yeah,
But continue.
he probably will. But it's just kind of that, what makes scenes like that interesting, of just like, you kind of start feeling what her mindset is this person actually on our side, or is this something I have to like prepare myself to like stab him in the back now? And yeah, I agree with you. The Mon Mothma scenes are really enjoyable to watch. And again, it's just scenes of her at a dinner table or her at a party and just talking,
They're so tense. Like, there's not a
Yeah.
single, I think, blaster bolt this entire entire thing of episode 8. And it's just, I don't know, you can still have a lot of tension without, lasers everywhere and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I completely agree.
One thing I like is something about Mon Mothma is I do want to touch on one of my favorite scenes, because I don't think it's really subtle, and I don't think people are going to talk about it a lot. But the scene I really like is towards the later part of these episodes. She's in the car, or whatever you call it, flying
Yeah.
car, space car, and way earlier, it's already set up like, hey, they assigned me a new driver, and he's definitely like listening in on me and
Yeah.
stuff like that. My favorite part is how she covers like a little bit about like this upcoming investigation into her, like stuff about like, why is there weird money being moved around?
Mhm.
Is she's like, she tells the driver, don't listen in, and of course he listens in.
Yeah.
And she argues with her husband about like gambling, which I guess she is right. He must have like done it again or something. But that's such a cool way of like, she already knows that the driver's listening in on her, so she's already building a cover for herself. It's just like, oh, it's just gambling debt.
Yeah.
Like that's her big that's the big blackmail they have against her, not the fact that like, oh, she's like funding a rebellion.
Yeah. I don't remember. Was it actually proven right that he was gambling? I thought that was.
no, we don't know. I think
Yeah, to be fair, we don't know.
genuinely,
But
he's
like,
not
when-
gambling.
I think
And
it's
she's
funnier and
dumb.
more interesting if he's not, and he's just like, "What the fuck?" Like,
I think he gets no, based on the way he's acting, I definitely think he is, because I think he's like, what, me? No, whoever telling you this, they're lying. They're obviously lying.
I mean, to
He's
be
not
fair,
offer-
what does he say if it's not true though? Like, if he's not gambling, how does he defend himself?
Listen, I don't like this guy. This guy is such
Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
I mean, yes.
Like
By the way, we're referring to Perrin.
yeah.
If you're,
Yeah.
going along with the show.
Or as I like calling him,
Like-
Dad Mothma, because he's the dad.
All right.
Go ahead.
Like, no, like he's just like, it's just like you have this snack of a woman who is like, she is like, looks like absolutely gorgeous, and you are just like being like
Holy shit! I almost spit out my
bloated,
water.
like, you're just like a bloated piece of shit who just lazes around and makes snide comments at your wife and invites people over that you know she hates. It's just like, it's like, bro, you're living the life, and I'm watching a man like drown, and I'm in the desert.
Seth
And
is
I'm just
Seth is
the
watching freaking. Seth is watching those scenes. Is like, it should have been me. Why not him?
Yeah, I should.
Because it was an arranged marriage. Because Cinderella culture, and it's awful. Remind you,
But-
Cinderellans sometimes do arranged. Well, it's traditional that they do arranged marriages. We'll come back to that later. Anyway,
It's so really
so,
funny. That's Seth just like,
So
you
I
have
don't
this
trust a word
snack.
that comes out of it's like, and because of that, I don't trust a word that comes out of this man's mouth. I'm just like, nah, he lies about everything. So I'm pretty sure he does gamble.
I'm not saying he doesn't. Maybe he does. I'm just saying it would be kind of funny
he
if he
does, but he probably doesn't gamble on Coruscant,
Yeah,
which was pretty much the promise she made, or she
Yeah.
wanted him to make. Like, you need to go to Canto Bight and do what you need to
Oh,
do.
yeah, I
Go
forgot
do
they
it.
referenced-
Do not gamble.
They referenced something from the
Here.
sequels. Canto Bight. Yeah.
The best part of the
everyone's
sequels.
favorite part of the sequel. I actually like the sequels, just not that part specifically. Screw Canto Bight. We should bring the Death Star to Canto Bight. Even though they're all blown up at this point. Anyway, or actually at this point they're not even built. But yeah, the Mon Mothma scenes are great, but that kind of leads us to the.
But yeah, like I just want to like reiterate, like that's why I like it. It's just that it's not something deliberately put in your face about like. There's not a little monologue or anything of like or she's talking to Luthen of like, here's my plan. I'm gonna talk to my husband in the back of my taxi or whatever, or chauffeur's car, sky car.
You could say car.
Wait,
yeah.
it is called the sky car, isn't it?
Is it?
Probably.
I think it is. It is called like a sky car.
It's not a
Anyways,
speeder.
But basically, like her whole plan of like planting this seed inside this dude's head so he doesn't like follow up and like cause basically bad shit for her is I like the fact that it's done like in this manner. It's not beat into your head somehow. It's like it's a small scene,
Yeah.
but it's a really effective scene, and I appreciate that.
It's also like really last thing I'll say about it's credit to both the writers and the actors, because again, it's not obvious that this is what she's doing. So, but as an audience member, you kind of figure it out really quick because of the information we know of just like, oh, she's lying about all this to throw them off. Like it's being very like deliberate and clever to like give herself some breathing room. And that's really interesting, and some that, like I said, they don't point out, but you figure it out almost immediately of like, oh, I get it. Like she's covering herself.
Yeah, like the writers have respect towards the audience. They're like they can figure this out. Like they're not idiots.
At no point,
Even
at no
though
point
this
does
is
she have to
Star
like go
Wars.
to the assistant and just like, don't worry, I made myself some space. I lied about gambling debt. My husband hasn't gambled in yet. Like, no, she never does that.
Yeah, like they're like, our audience is not idiots, which I would say like you're wrong. We're Star Wars fans. We are definitely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like I said, there's more moments in this, obviously, but like it's one of the moments that stands out where it's like they do something and they don't spell it out for you, and I appreciate that they don't.
Yeah.
It's just like, thank you. You respect your audience's intelligence enough.
Yeah.
Speaking of things that they leave up to the audience, so other things that happen during this arc that aren't directly related to the prison is it's also when Dedra, who's the ISB like main protagonist character that we go through that I mentioned earlier, she starts doing those bad things to the characters we like, and we go, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have rooted for you. During this arc, she begins to interrogate Bix, which is a lifelong friend of Cassian back on Ferrix. And one thing that's just left up to the audience's imagination, which I think was well done, instead of having it play a sound or whatever. Basically, they torture her by pretty much putting this headpiece on with headphones and whatnot, and pretty much play her the sounds of dying children. like certain alien species, which is just horrific. And this is also part of the reason I'm like, maybe you should show it to someone, 12 and under.
These show writers are messed up. Who thinks of stuff like this?
Yeah. So
Anyway.
There's no sound to it. We can just see Bix's face as she's hearing these sounds, and it's so well acted, and it's just great that they didn't play a sound or anything for us. It's just left to our imaginations of just what could this horrible sound be that's constantly playing in her ears while she's wearing this, that pretty much like breaks her mind. She doesn't just bounce back after this. Like, she is just decrepit and just like destroyed.
Yeah, because no matter what sound they would have played, it would never have like lived up to what our imagination
could conjure.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think when you have like limitations of like, well, we kind of have to still be like a PG-13 show. What can we get away with and still like kind of reiterate like the brutality of this world? It's just like, this torturous sounds. It's just like, it does make it very much like, man, the Empire is just so laughably evil that they will like record like the sounds of dying children and use that as a torture device. But it's like, no, you know what? This is Star Wars. Like, they are that evil.
They did glass a planet. Let's not forget who we're talking about.
Not yet.
All right, they will. They're not. If they could, they would have at this point. They just haven't built it yet. So yeah, another thing that I want to bring up before we talk about this final arc, because Randy brought it to my attention again. I want to reiterate, like, the antagonists in this show are so good. Like, especially when they actually interact with each other. Like, this string being of a terrible human. And
Zero.
Yeah. No, I know his name. I don't know the other girl's name. I just wanted to call him that again. The incel.
Detra.
And then Dectra. Their interactions are super interesting to me because it's two different types of like antagonists. Of one who's like, I'm smart, I'm calculated, I know what the heck I'm doing, and I love like every scene where they're like, oh, should we like step on like the people or like block the parade? Like, no, let them have the parade, let them come out, and we'll mess with them.
Then we'll box them in.
Yeah, then we'll box them in. Like, she's very smart, she's very tactical. And this other dude who's just, again, kind of messes up a lot of stuff, but is super, like, determined, like, I need to prove myself. I need to do something better. I need to get back into ISB. And his kind of fascination that he grows with this woman, very stalkerish.
Yeah, it's a good relationship.
It's not healthy in the slightest. It's not even close. And I think Seth said it best. This character is like his almost like Joker moment. You just start seeing him like slowly get more insane and more obsessive with these cases. You're just kind of watching this guy drive himself into madness.
Yeah, and I'm saying like, and I want to add like, by going and saying not like Joker laughing to himself shit or anything, but like it becomes clear that he becomes very obsessed with like finding Andor, and then by extension gets really obsessed with this woman, starts invading her private space, and he just shows like, and he seems to be like, it's like it doesn't register with him. It's like, don't you realize that this is weird? Like, this is just weird that you stalked a woman to her workplace and you're just like
waiting for her to show up.
Yeah, it's just like, this doesn't register as weird to you at all. It's like, okay, he's obviously like off his rocker.
Yeah.
At least it's
don't do that.
Yeah, if that wasn't enough. To our viewers out there, to the ones just if you're trying to pick up a woman,
if you identify with Sterile or the Joker, you need to get checked into a hospital or something. Like,
I was also gonna say, like,
but I'd say, talk to someone. Go see a therapist. Maybe there's plenty of online therapists.
I'll be a little.
And this is where you would insert an ad.
I'm gonna be a little harsher. You need to fucking stop. You need to stop.
This is your intervention. Stop stalking women. We're gonna solve the world's problems on this podcast.
Yeah, stop stalking stop stalking her, find a hobby, get into knitting.
Get into knitting.
But like, he strikes me so much as a Joker that even to the point where his mom is so overbearing, I'm pretty sure we're gonna get the same thing from the damn movie where he like kills his mom at some point.
I was waiting
Like,
for it the entire show.
Yeah.
I was waiting for him to be like, "Where's Andor?" And he's like, "He's there." And he just turns to his mom and just shoots her.
Yeah, he's just gonna like shoot her or like suffocate her with a pillow.
Oh no,
I'll say this much.
he'll definitely do something slow. He'll probably do the
I
pillow.
don't think he has the spine to do it, honestly. I think he did what he was going to do when he found out, okay, I know where Andor is. She left to go somewhere, and he steals money from her and uses it to leave the planet and go after Andor. I don't see him killing her.
Not
But,
this
you know,
I can understand where Randy's coming through. It's like, yeah, he is a little bit.
I feel like he doesn't have the spine
cowardly.
for it.
He's definitely like cowardly, but like I don't know, man. Like I get some weird vibes looking at this man, and it's just like, you were bullied a lot in school, weren't you? This guy makes me uncomfortable. And to be fair, I will say this much: I think at least his like little weird obsession Joker turnaround is at least more entertaining than the actual Joker movie. So,
Damn. Hot. Yeah. Right. I forgot you hate the Joker movie.
yeah, I think it kind of sucks.
But that's for a different podcast.
That's a very different podcast. But yeah, I like him. But and again, I think you're supposed to feel uncomfortable around him, so I think he does a good job of doing that. He does a good job of making him of being a terrible person. But that does kind of lead us into the big finale. I just call it the parade, because that is the big climax to it. It is Cassian's mother, like, she dies just of old age. And she was always the one that was just like, no, fuck the government. Like, let's just be rebels and kill everyone. And I kind of liked her. Then there's this old grandma who's just, like, yeah, very anti-government.
It doesn't start
No, it doesn't
that
start
way.
out that way. But like,
He doesn't start that way.
what she eventually becomes, like before her, like when she talks to, like Andor, like the last time before he leaves, she's just like, I can't go with you, but I am very much not with the Empire. And there's this.
She's like, I'm not going to just lay down.
Yeah. And then there's this big parade, and all the people are there. They have her ashes. They even start a little early. And she, probably one of the best monologues. There's a lot of monologues. Or just a lot of kind of speech. There's a lot of monologues and speeches in this. But I think hers is one of the best of just like, are we going to just stay asleep and just try to be comfortable? Or are we going to get up and like fuck shit up? And it again goes back to what Luthen was talking about. It's like people won't wake up unless you squeeze them. And she finally, like, in her, obituary is like, we've been squeezed.
Yeah, we've been sleeping. And she's like, she even like, I've been sleeping too.
Yeah, no, I've messed up too. I slept to my death. But
I would have gotten up a lot sooner and fight these bastards.
Yeah, that's so good. Bastards. And which there are a lot of the first times like of curse words in the Star Wars world. The first time someone ever used the word shit was earlier in the season. It was like in the first 3 episodes. I'm pretty sure this is the first time the word bastard has been used in the this world. Yes, that's the show we're watching.
Since we're talking about words real quick, I want to say this show has given me, I think, the best science fiction interpretation of coffee, which is they just call it calf, which I'm like, I like that. I could totally see, just call coffee. I could see in a totally alternate universe in like our world that we would just call coffee calf. It's like, I could see that. Like, no, I could definitely see that. That's awesome. I like that name.
Yeah, believable. But yeah, that, and then it just ends into just riots in the street and people kicking down barricades. And if you've ever watched riot footage before, it looks a lot like this, except less lasers and more real bullets. and it's just such a cool scene. At one point, she even gets a kill in the grave, because I'm trying to load up IMDb. Brasso, I got it. I figured it out. Brasso takes the ashes of this woman and just beats someone down with her, and being ready to go like, yeah, that's a kill for her, by the way, not him, because it was her ashes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she has 2 kills during the series. Once when she was like younger, when she first
A
found.
flashback, yeah.
Yeah, and this. So really cool moment, really big like incentive, like just kind of big set piece. And this was kind of, we've talked a lot about how tension just kind of builds and builds throughout the series, and there are other big moments, but this was kind of like everything was leading to this big riot, and like you could see it coming a mile away when they're like, yeah, let him have the funeral, yeah, and they get the band and the marching band. Great song, by the way, like that they play all the way down, and you're just like, it's this city's gonna blow up, and it's a big spectacle, and I really enjoyed the finale, and I really liked her speech. So, but that's a lot for me. Seth, what are your thoughts on this final arc, this parade?
I liked it. I really don't think I can add to it. I really like Marva's. I script the name all the time. I don't care at this point.
Martha.
But I liked her speech a lot. I totally think the Imperial officer that kicked Bimo over definitely deserved the ass kicking he got.
You just have to all the way through this and not talk about the sweet, sweet boy, B2 emo.
Yeah,
or Bimo.
again, isn't it? It's
Continue,
D2
Seth.
emo.
Yeah,
But I like that
mean,
you keep calling
he
him Bimo,
definitely
like
deserved-
as Adventure
yeah,
Time.
he definitely deserved to get his ass hit way more after that.
Yeah.
Like all that bullshit that he pulled. It's like, yeah, no, he
He kicked
fucking.
kicked poor B2 Mo. B2 emo.
But like, I really one of the things I really liked is that, like I said, it's the build up, and it's just this really neat thing where you slowly start to realize as the scene is progressing with all these people coming together, like this isn't a funeral. This is the beginning of like a riot. Like that's, and it feels like this whole thing has been planned out. They outnumber the Empire. Some of them have bombs. It's a really good tense
bombs.
scene.
Yeah.
Really good throw on that kid too.
I'm about to say, that
honestly.
kid has an arc. Can we talk about that kid's arc? He threw that like a good 50 yards. Somehow didn't actually, I mean, he might have killed someone in the building, but didn't actually directly hit anyone. Because I'm not going to lie, when that kid's like holding the bomb, I'm looking at that like, I was so ready
That
for
looks
him
heavy.
I was ready for him to botch that throw or either just run with it, and like, you're going to take out your own guys with this thing. But no, he cleared he cleared all the guards over them. And, you know, good on you, kid. You didn't friendly fire. I was so betting on you messing this up or blowing yourself up.
Another thing I would say is another scene I really like was when the mob sort of corners Deidre and gets her on the ground. Like, first off, great acting from the actress because her screams are mortifying. Like,
when they
it's
start
like,
jumping her.
well, they all start grabbing at her and stuff, and I'm like, okay. I for a split second, I really thought it's like, is a Disney Plus show really about to show me someone get ripped apart by a mob? Because I was like, there was a split second in my brain. It's like, are they really gonna do that? Are they really gonna show that? And nah, she gets bailed out by Serial, but like. I thought that was like that was props to the show for a split second had me doubt myself for a minute.
I was like,
it's just like, damn, they're gonna do it. They're gonna kill this lady.
What a violent! I was also terrified because I was like, yeah, mob riot, and then like beating up this like the villain, and I'm like, oh, whoa, chill, hold on a sec, this is really disturbing, like because she's screaming her head off. And
you would almost be like, just execute her or something. Don't rip her apart in front of me.
Bro, no one had a gun. They were stomping her out. they were jumping her. God, yeah, that seemed.
Another scene. I just thought about this. You know, since we've been kind of talking about Assassin's Creed, get Sita to be an assassin, because how she took out that Imperial dude, like tailing her, very clean. very clean assassination there.
She was
Completely low
taking him,
profile.
but yeah.
No, she was when she was walking away, and the other Imperial dude was like tailing from behind. He's like, "Hey, where are you going? Come back here!" And she like just turns around and just like shanks him and just drops him off in a little alleyway and just walks away. It's just like that's a clean assassination.
Yeah,
Good job.
Good job. Yeah.
I bet she's great at Revelations multiplayer.
I guarantee she's done this so many times. This exact method.
I you know what? Like, I feel like good on her. Like, you know, you could be a proper assassin.
I can see it.
Drew, this is when you plug your shit. God.
What? Plug what? My own podcast? You already mentioned the podcast.
The Assassin's
For
Creed
Assassin's
podcast.
Creed. If you liked that episode, part 2, you can also check out part 1 where we cover Assassin's Creed's Assassin's Creed, the first one that came out, all the way to Assassin's Creed Revelations.
Did
I
he
go
not
into
already,
the
like, he didn't say,
multiplayer.
I know he didn't do that, like, whole monologue, but did he not already say, like, we just talked about Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, but plug
Yeah,
the actual
but
episode.
plug it harder, okay, yeah. Well,
I'll
if you
do it
want to
for you.
learn more about the Assassin's Creed series,
I'll
check
do
out
it.
our original podcast. No, you wanted this now. All right?
We let Drew do this, and then he's gonna like edit over it, so it just comes off.
So it
very
sounds like I
naturally.
did. Yeah. Jokes on you guys. I get lazy sometimes. But I just let it ride out. But yeah, if you want to check out more, we have 2 podcasts on the Assassin's Creed series. First on the Ezio trilogy and the Altair, that's the Assassin's Creed series Part 1. And then what is the best Assassin's Creed games, the Assassin's Creed series Part 2, talking about Assassin's Creed 3 and Black Flag. You can check them out here, anywhere you can get your podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else here at the Fresh Podcast. Is there? You happy?
They grow up so fast.
God dang it. Okay. Now that we've done that and I've plugged other podcasts, is there anything else that you guys can think of with this final arc? Or really just things we haven't talked about in general? We didn't there's a lot of this show as any. And a couple characters that I know we did.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll throw something in real quick.
Yeah.
The Fondor was a really cool ship. I think it speaks.
Oh, yeah.
I think it like really speaks to Luthen's character. When you see this thing, it's like everybody talks about like, where's the Fondor? Where's the Fondor? Like, there's the Fondor. It's like, why do they make a big deal out of the Fondor? And then you get the scene where Luthen gets caught in a tractor beam. It's like,
Yeah.
that's why they care about the Fondor. It's like,
He's awesome.
damn.
Keep in mind,
the Fondor's cool.
keep in mind, the Falcon, the main Star Wars ship, it was a different tractor beam, yes, but couldn't break a tractor beam. We have seen very few ships actually break and escape a tractor beam. But the Fondor does it. Easy. Like he's done this-
Very easily, yeah.
Yeah. So that's cool. The character I was actually going to bring up, while you guys, if you guys want to think of more, is Major Partagaz. I was getting there. I had it. I just was checking myself. He's a very interesting character because he's for ISB, but it's really interesting to kind of see him go back and forth between like, yeah, I'll help out the main girl, but also kind of still do my own agenda. And I don't know, he's kind of an underrated part of the show, and I like that he does switch sides to like, at one point it's like the whole room versus her, but he is actually able to be convinced. His opinion's gonna be sort of like, hold on a sec, no, she's right and she's smarter. And there's one scene where like the other dude says like, well, could you imagine if everyone treated their responsibility so liberally and just did whatever they want like her? And he's like, you're right, why aren't all of you working as hard as her? And like switches it onto him. And I don't know, there's a lot of really good characters in this, and I feel like he is kind of overshadowed, but I think he still does a good job. Randy,
I agree.
Yeah.
I liked him a lot too.
all right. Randy, what are your thoughts on B2 Emo? We didn't talk a lot about him, only briefly.
All right. So there's a lot of just sweet droids throughout the Star Wars series. You got the classic R2-D2, this cute, little beeping and booping. And you got the oblivious and also sometimes, I'd say yeah, probably oblivious and fun to make fun of C-3PO.
Yeah.
From later on, we get K2SO, who's super sarcastic, and it was really fun just to have. It's kind of simplified, and it's kind of almost like a loyal dog. That's what B2 emo is, and I'm glad that they made him talk because he has some really funny lines through it. Like I think in the first 3 episodes, he says like Marva said you were out ruining your character with ill friends or something like that. I butchered that line, but it's a good line where he's like, yeah, you're ruining your character. That's what we told everyone. That's where you've been, even though you've been like off planet or whatever.
I like.
Yeah, he's just like this really good loyal dog, and especially when Marva passes, and he's just kind of like Marva will be back, right?
Oh,
I need to sit by her chair.
He did,
and
yeah.
then Bradson's like, all right, come on, we've packed up, we gotta go, and he's just like, can we stay the night here? It's just like, oh,
that did break my heart when he's like, oh, I need to charge. It's like, you're fully charged. You just want to stay here. I was like, he just wants to stay with his old master. He's just
he has a lot of just other really cute scenes where he's like, I don't know if I have enough energy to lie for you, Cassian, and stuff like that. And it's just like pausing for data lag. It's cute, and he's a good boy.
He reminds me, and like this is kind of, this is gonna be even more sad when I say this, but like he reminds me of like if you've ever had like a really old pet. Like he's kind of either sick or he can't run around like he used to, and he just kind of lays there. That's what it reminds me of. Just like he's old and he's kind of like he's run down and he needs like new parts or just like there's probably an upgrade version of him. But he's still trying his best, and he's just sincere, even though like he can only move at like 5 miles an hour, tops, and his battery is running out too fast. It's just I don't know. He's sweet, but he means the best, and I like him. He's not my favorite droid because that's Buddy, and Buddy will always be the best. But he's up there. He's a good droid. Beatty. I know what I called him.
Yeah.
He's my buddy. But so yeah. All right. Well, I think unless you guys have anything else that we did not talk about with Andor. No?
Luther's got a really good monologue too. Really good. I liked it. Talks about he burns himself for a sunrise he's not going to see. I thought like, damn, that's a really good monologue.
That's when he's talking with
He's an inside agent for the ISB. I don't remember his name.
Oh, yes. That's it. Yeah. The inside guy. I don't know why I thought that was when he was talking with what's his name that's in every Star Wars live action thing. The rebel leader. Lies, deception guys.
Saw Gerrera.
Saw Gerrera,
Saw
thank
Gerrera.
you. Yeah.
Anyway.
That was really funny because the audio kind of messed up there, so it just sounded like blah blah blah. Okay, but yeah, that monologue's good. Saw has some good moments in the show too, but Luther has a lot of really good monologues and speeches. So it's every single arc we talked about, we could have moments like, oh, by the way, Luther has an amazing moment there. So
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, so something we didn't talk about, and I said we'll come back to that later about Syndrillans having one of their traditions or customs is arranged marriages. It's not something. It's like it's not forced anymore, but it's like if you're into it. I'm doing a shoulder shrug. If you're into it,
okay.
So you have Mon Mothma's daughter, who kind of throughout this show is kind of like, I don't know how old she's supposed to be. Probably like 13, 14, something like that.
You're talking about her daughter.
Yeah, Mon Mothma's daughter.
A teenage daughter is somewhere.
Yeah, teenage daughter is kind of like, I don't like you, Mom. Dad's cool. He lets me do what I want.
Yeah.
Basically. And like we don't learn about this till later on. She's really into the Syndrilla customs and whatnot. She has like this, I guess, Bible study to compare it to anything.
Oh God, yeah. I forget
And-
about this.
Yeah, so Wang kind of learned going through this to help Mon Mothma move the money behind, like, get the Empire to not look at her. Is there's this like
Broker.
broker,
Yeah.
broker that comes in who's also Sandrillan, and he's like, all right, this is what I can do for you. And she's like, okay, how would you like to be compensated? And she's like, I can pay you handsomely and whatnot. And he's like, how about favors? And she's really like, I'd really rather just pay you. And he's like, okay, well, I have a son about your daughter's age. And she's like, hell no. Because she hates that she's married to Perrin so much.
She also doesn't like this shadow, like this broker type character. Like she's established multiple times. Yeah. Like she does not want to do business with him. This is very much a last resort situation.
Yeah, he definitely can't be trusted for sure.
Yeah.
And so I think it's one of the last couple scenes of the last episode is she goes through with it and introduces her daughter to this broker's broker's son. And so I don't know, it's kind of interesting because she's like, I hate this, and like I'm fighting for something that like this freedom and stuff that is taking up a lot of my time, so I'm like kind of away from my daughter and whatnot. And she's like, man, I don't like you. And it kind of is a mirror of Luthen, kind of he's like, I'm fighting for a sunrise I'll never see or whatnot. And she's like, I'm trying to fight this so that way you'll have this better life and whatnot, and hopefully you can live and have your own life, make your own choices, and not get wrapped up in this like arranged marriage and stuff like that. But with her being all about this Cinderella customs and whatnot, has her own little like study group and stuff, and she's all about it. She's almost kind of giving Mon Mothma an out, like, I mean, I like doing the stuff. So as I said, if you're into it.
Yeah.
So I don't know, it's really interesting, and I'm excited to see where it goes in season 2.
Plus, also, like, it could be she just gets into the Central and stuff because she's so, like, she's a teenager. She wants to run contrary to everything mom does.
Yeah, and mom hates it.
It could also be one of those things like, well, she hates all these customs, so I'm going to get really into it. It's like...
Yeah, and, like, Perrin's fine with it. Like, I wouldn't say Perrin's like, ooh, Sandrilla, but he's like, yeah, they're my customs, whatever.
It'll be interesting to see, like, how far the daughters want to go. Because I'm kind of with Seth, where it's like, how into it is she, or how much is this teenage rebellion, for lack of a better word, of just like, I want to get at mom and mom hates the customs, so I'll do the customs. But like, is she gonna like fully get married to spite your mother? And that, I think that'll be interesting to kind of see where that goes. It's also, I love the fact that like we're talking about essentially a family drama. Like this family dynamic
Star Wars.
and Star Wars, but this is the most interesting part of this
Star Wars
show.
is also a bit about families fucking shit up. The entire
but there's also laser swords and stuff involved.
Trilogy is all about the fucking Skywalkers and how they fucked everything up.
Yes, and sometimes kiss each other, but that's not the point. But that's with like laser swords but no, like there's parts of the show with like, you know, explosions and laser blasts and people beating someone else to death with like a mother's ashes. But no, we're also like, okay, but like the family drama, is she gonna go along with the arranged marriage? And I think that's like really shows like how interesting this show is, even like the smaller details of it.
Yeah. And one other small detail is, which I'm surprised they didn't loop back to it at the last episode, is one of the time Andor talks to Marva, his mother, she's like, don't look for your sister, which is something that happens in the first 3 episodes. Like, here's all these flashbacks of him and his sister, and the episode literally starts with him searching for his sister. And there's an episode, I forget what episode it is, where Marva's like, don't look for your sister, and it's probably like, oh, that was a reminder to the audience. We're going to see his sister at some point in this season. And then we don't.
I completely forgot that we had flashbacks in this. Like, I totally forgot
that. With that, I guess. As long as it pays off in season 2, we have to wait like 2 years to find out.
So here's the thing: this show's already been confirmed for a season 3, a 2 and a 3. So we know that
I thought it was only season 2.
You can look it up. It's up to like 3 seasons. So So they definitely know. There's going to be more coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, it'll be. I don't know. Part of me is like, oh yeah, it will be interesting to like maybe he will meet his sister, but then I'm also like, I don't know.
You
if
also
I can't.
completely forgot about it.
I don't care enough about his sister. I'm like, no, keep going with like our current plot. Unless like maybe
Well,
like
no,
his
I
sister...
feel like I feel like they have enough room because like if we want to get into
Yeah.
like what they're going to do in future seasons, they've already set up like a lot of different little seeds and things that they're going to go to. Like I imagine they will eventually like touch on his sister, and I think it's just the same thing where it's just like they're obviously not done with some of the villains like Cyril and Dedra. Like there's
yeah.
definitely like much more planned there. So yeah, I feel like that like this is a show that I think that for sure Disney's in for the long run. You know, like there's going to be more coming down the pipeline. You're going to see all these things eventually.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just what it's. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that's like one of the aspects of the show. There's a lot else going on, and this might be what I care about the least. But it could be interesting. I'm not saying I'm like against them bringing like the sister back, but it's just one of those things like it's not grabbing my attention.
Yeah, and the thing is just like you in this case, I think you just have to just wait and see what the writers are going to do because I don't think they set something like that by accident. I definitely think that, especially how deliberately written just this season was alone, I definitely think like they have an idea where they want to take this, and I think part of that is this dealing with like Andor's sister, and it's like. Is it going to turn out that he never is able to find her, or is she been dead all this time or something? Like, they could very well go in that direction. That's very possible. I think it just, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of different elements. I mean, like, shit, we never see Luthen in other stuff. So, I mean, I'm just going to say, doesn't make his chances look good of getting out of the Andor series alive.
Yeah,
so,
there's only one character that's like, I'll make it, and that's the title character.
Andor and Mon Mothma.
Oh, yes, Mon Mothma.
Two characters that we do know for sure that make it to the end. So, some people's chances aren't looking too high.
But that's for future seasons, and that'll be for future podcasts. Because right now, it is time for at least our favorite. Well, probably not even your guys. I like this segment. It's our fresh picks of the week. The part that Randy always forgets about, which is where we talk about.
I'm doing it. I just always forget.
Yeah, where we talk about what we've either been listening to, watching, or playing this past week. So, Randy, what have you been playing, listening to, or watching?
All right. So, I've been playing that new Pokemon game. I've been playing Pokemon Violet. It's the first new Pokemon game I've bought since Pokemon Black 2, which I don't remember when that came out. Let me do a Google. But that game came out on the Nintendo DS, and so we've had the DS, the DSi, the 3DS at this point, just in regards to like handhelds. And then I think, I guess, do we count the Wii U as a handheld?
There was never a Pokemon game on the Wii U, if that's how you're basing it.
I don't think so, yeah.
So, no.
So yeah, it's been a hot minute since I've had a new Pokemon game.
Yeah.
So this was my first time hopping back into it, and I played Pokemon so much as a kid. So 2012, literally 10 years. I haven't bought a new Pokemon game in 10 years.
So how'd you like this one?
It was my first like actual 3D Pokemon game, and like you have some people complaining about it, like this isn't the polish we're used to from Nintendo / Game Freak in general. It definitely it struggles a little on the
Switch.
Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
But the only thing that it struggles with are objects that are kind of further away, I feel. They'll slow down the frame rate to keep your character smooth and whatnot. You'll have a little bit of pop-in and whatnot, but I mean, I'm coming from 2012 where I was looking at pixelated sprites and whatnot of characters. So, do I wish it was more polished? Yes, but the core gameplay itself is perfectly fine. So, And I actually really like how they set up the story. You kind of have these 3 like side quests that branch out. I haven't finished it at the end, but I know they kind of converge at the end. Haven't gotten that far yet in finishing it, but it's enjoyable. So if you haven't played a Pokemon game in 10 years like me, and you have a Nintendo Switch, I say get it.
So,
it was so fun to discover, because I've been away from Pokemon for so long. They've come out with so many new Pokemon to come back and be like, just kind of this wonder of like, oh, what is this? Who's that? Like, who's that character? Who's that Pokemon, if you will? It was really fun.
I like the game. I got Scarlet just to get the opposite of his, and I got back into it when they did Sword and Shield, so a generation before this, and I've liked it. I also play Pokemon Arceus, which is probably one of my favorites now, and I like that this is such a different experience than what they have been doing. It is a new game. They have it where it's now you can go to any gym you want. You can go to the final gym if you like, kind of Breath of the Wild style. You can go and fight the final boss. They're right. I mean, not the final boss, but you can go and fight. The highest level gym leader. You'll get destroyed. You'll get immediately destroyed. But that's okay, because if you get high enough level and do it, then the rest of it's going to be a breeze. Or you can actually map out and try to do all 3 side quests. Well, I guess all 3 main quests, and to try to stay on level. But part of the fun is accidentally running into like a villain base or a gym, and you're like, ooh, I'm under leveled, but let me see if I can still try to figure my way around this. And that's really been fun. So I like the game. It really, honestly, the biggest thing is the fact that technically it's not that great. It really just struggles. Like, just
when you're actually doing the battles and stuff like that, it's smooth.
Oh yeah, but that's the other thing. It's not like a Cyberpunk where it's game breaking, where it's unplayable. It's just kind of visual stuff. It's just kind of things that like sometimes the game just won't render like people walking, and it'll just look like a JPEG image moving across your screen.
It's just funny.
And yeah, it's kind of funny. You kind of go, haha, that's weird, and then you move along, and you're fine. I think it maybe crashed on me like once, but I think every new gen Pokemon game does that. So it's nothing that like it's like, oh, it ruins the experience for me. So yeah, I recommend it. It's fun. I like some of the new Pokemon. I wish the cat stayed on its legs, or else I would have picked that, but that's fine because I picked the derpy crocodile. But that's enough about Pokemon. My fresh pick of the week is I literally just watched this today, and it's a Marvel thing. It is Guardians of the Galaxy, the holiday special. And I want to talk about it because I knew probably won't do a full podcast on it. But it's really fun. I enjoyed it. It reminds me of the comedy of the first Guardians of the Galaxy. It's mainly focused around Drax and Mantis, and it's a really fun dynamic. They try to go kidnap Kevin Bacon to give it to Peter as a Christmas present. It's a really funny premise. There's a lot of actual laugh out loud moments. I actually verbally started laughing, which is rare because a lot of times, at least in the newer Marvel movies, just kind of quips. This was really funny. And the soundtrack for this is really good. I don't know what. Actually, no, I do know what they are because I looked them up. There's an opening scene with this band called The Old 1970s, and they're dressed up as aliens, and it's an original song at the beginning, and it actually is really funny and also a really good song. So highly recommend watching them. And then also, I recommend this song because it's a Christmas song about aliens who don't understand Christmas, and that's funny, and they're also good musicians. So check out the holiday special. It's on Disney Plus right now. Seth, your turn.
All right, that sounds cool. So mine is also a movie. The week of Thanksgiving, Netflix decided to put out Glass Onion, which is like the sequel to Knives Out in theaters, only for 1 week. And I decided hey, I want to check it out. I really love Knives Out, and I went into Glass Onion with lowered expectations. If you know anything about Knives Out, it's a really fun sort of mystery kind of comedy. with a really good mystery in that first film. And I went into this thinking like, okay, I'm gonna go into it enjoying it for what it is. I'm not expecting something to reach the same level as Knives Out. I was pleasantly surprised that this movie does a lot of things like Knives Out, like having like a similar sort of plot structure, and I won't spoil what exactly that is to the first, but it is like a similar plot structure to the first film, but it does its own thing, and I really like that it does like its own thing. I have to talk in circles around this thing because I really don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that sounds like, because I really enjoyed Knives Out. So
I
I
love
see
the
that.
first Knives Out, yeah.
And this movie is pretty much like it's weird because it doesn't talk about the events of Knives Out, but yet it does feel like it's constantly in conversation about what it is as a sequel to Knives Out. And the one thing I can say about it is it's not real. It's definitely a mystery film, but it's not really a murder mystery, and that's really all I can leave it at.
Yeah.
I think it was spectacular. I think the twists were great. I think just it has a very stacked cast, and I think they all do a wonderful job of like, it's like Knives Out. Some of them are just really good, enjoyable characters. Like Blanc is amazing in this. He's even more of a character here, I believe, than in Knives Out. And some of them are just so enjoyable because, God, you hate them. But there's so much fun to hate these characters, just like Knives Out. So when it does come to Netflix, because apparently it's not on Netflix yet. It is
No.
coming later. Yeah.
I looked it up. It's coming to Netflix like December 23rd. So as of right,
Perfect.
yeah, it's that weird thing. They only released it for a week, and now like we have to wait, essentially like 2 weeks in between this weird schedule before we can actually watch it. So it'll come out like right before Christmas.
Oh yeah, but that's perfect though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great film. I definitely recommend it. I had so much fun watching it. I went to this theater, and it wasn't like a stacked theater, but there was an okay amount of people in it, especially considering like it almost been a whole week since it had been in theaters, and like it was great. There were so many laughs, and there were like a lot of like, oh, I didn't see that coming, like kind of moments. It's a fun damn movie, and I really want to see more of these movies kind of come out like that. Like it's simple, it's effective. I really like it. So yeah, when you get the chance, watch Glass Onion.
I definitely will. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch it during the 1 week it was out, but I'll definitely be checking it out when it does. But with that all said, I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank both Seth and Randy for joining me on this podcast.
It was a pleasure.
Yeah, all right. And also I want to say, stay tuned. We got one more podcast of the year, and it'll be a fun one for our last one. So thank you. Stay safe out there. Goodbye.